Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking about why you are most likely going to be driving a Toyota in the future. Now, I want to start things off by saying this is not some garbage Toyota propaganda. I am a neutral person when it comes to brands. I don't care who makes a car, I just care how good the cars are and how much money they cost. That's the perspective that I come from. So with that being said, let's talk about why Toyota is destroying every single automaker in the US industry and why other automakers need to learn from Toyota. Before we get into this video though, as always, if you want to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. Let's get into it. We're going to start things off by going over sales figures to show how crazy Toyota's rise back to number one is. So, Ford. Last year, quarter one of 2023, they sold 476,000 cars. Quarter one of 2024, 518,000 cars. So Ford's had a pretty big increase year over year. General Motors was the biggest automaker in 2023, 602,000 units to 592. So General Motors has seen a slight slump in their overall sales volume. Honda went from 284,000 units to 333,000. Kia Hyundai, that whole group, 382,000 to 379,000. And then Nissan, 235,000 to 252,000. So you can kind of see a trend here with automakers, kind of increasing slightly year over year, or maybe decreasing, but a little bit. Stellantis, the one that we all like to make the doom and gloom videos about, 367,000 units down to 332,000 units. So Stellantis is now smaller than Hyundai. It's smaller than Honda, and if Nissan keeps increasing, it might be smaller than Nissan in the future. Who knows? Stellantis, kind of a train wreck, right? Toyota, 467,000 units last year, 565,000 this year. So Toyota was smaller than Ford last year when it came to volume, and now they're a lot bigger than Ford, and they're continuing to increase, right? They're not in the number one spot quite yet. General Motors still has the crown in terms of volume so far, but Toyota, they might take back that crown towards the end of the year. So I want to talk about what Toyota is doing so well. And again, this is coming from a person that is neutral when it comes to automakers. I just care about the product and the price. And I'm going to talk about what the other automakers can learn from Toyota. So the first thing that Toyota did that's kind of a long-term strategy that the other automakers now have to slowly adopt, right? They can't just forcefully implement this, is the fact that Toyota was incremental with their price increases over the pandemic, which was an era of huge price increases. And so this has made Toyota look a lot better than other automakers, but it's also made it so it's a lot easier for Toyota's customers to continue buying cars. Here's what I mean. So first off, from an image perspective, the other automakers jacking up their prices a massive amount, that does not look good whatsoever to the public. The public goes, you guys just care about the money. So I think that's pretty obvious. When it comes to the customers, it's really important that an automaker doesn't change their prices all that much one way or the other, because that greatly affects resale value. And this is something that Toyota's done really well over the years. They slightly increase their prices over time, and they pretty much never decrease their prices. Like sometimes there's discounts on Toyotas, like, over the last few months, there have been discounts on Toyota 4Runners, for example, because dealers had quite a few of them. And spoiler alert, dealers don't have any of them anymore for the most part. But because there's not these big price swings, people can be pretty confident that a new Toyota is going to cost this much. So then a used Toyota is probably going to be valued at this. Now, the reliability thing with Toyotas also goes into play with this. Cars that are considered to be more reliable generally hold their value better than cars that aren't because, well, if it's a used car, you're probably going to have to fix things on it. And if it's a reliable used car, well, there's less stuff you have to fix on it, less money you have to put into it. So you're willing to pay a little bit more money for it. And so this all comes into play into helping Toyota out. Because they incrementally increased their prices, it's made it so that the used market on Toyotas has been very stable compared to the rest of the used market. I mean, you look at Stellantis, for example, that has these big price swings. Well, the price of used Rams, for example, just boom. It seems like there's no floor with some of these trucks. And so that makes it extremely difficult for current Ram owners to trade in because they find out that they owe a lot more on the vehicle than what it's worth because of those huge price swings. Well, with Toyota, they don't have those price swings. So these people going in, they have equity or, maybe they're just break even in some cases. But regardless, they're not going to be $20,000, $30,000 upside down, unless they bought from a Toyota dealership that charged over MSRP, which is something that happened over the course of the pandemic. And so that is going to hurt Toyota a little bit when it comes to volume, but I would say that Toyota didn't necessarily have more over MSRP charges than other automakers during the bulk of the pandemic. Yes, some of them were crazy, like Sienna's selling for like 10 grand over MSRP. I understand that, but every single automaker had over MSRP cars during the pandemic. And from what I've seen, Toyota's actually cracked down on that a lot. And that's something I also want to talk about. Toyota's crackdown on charging over MSRP seems to have worked better than other automakers, because I still see Ford dealers, I still see Stellantis dealers, I still see General Motors dealers charging over MSRP on product. Now, I'm not saying that Toyota dealers aren't still doing that. There are still dealers that are doing that, but I have seen a bigger pullback with Toyota dealers doing just MSRP or under MSRP, more so than the other automakers. So that's another thing that's greatly benefiting Toyota when it comes to image. Again, incremental price increases, and it seems like they've gotten the dealers into line for the most part. Gotta put that for the most part in there. And then the thing that I talked about with the product being deemed as reliable, that's also helped out substantially. And so this leads us into talking about how the other automakers can learn from Toyota. So, I think it goes without saying, building a high quality product that is reliable, every single automaker should focus on that, even though that is not always the focus nowadays. It's always, the techie stuff that automakers seem to focus on rather than if it's going to last a long time. So that's pretty simple. But the other thing that we focused most of our time in this video with was pricing. If other automakers were less greedy and they were more reasonable with their price increases like Toyota, then they wouldn't have to do the big rebates. They wouldn't have to do the big discounts. And so they would create way more price stability with their product on the used market, which means that their customers could trade in on a more regular basis. And if their customers can trade in on a more regular basis, that means that they can sell more cars. And so it pays to be patient, and it pays to not be greedy, because again, this is Q1 of 2024 where Toyota, they're not as constrained as they were last year, but they don't have nearly as much inventory as everyone else. Like a lot of Toyotas, you have to go in and get on a list to be able to get that car. You can't just buy it today. And so that's still putting a constraint on their volume. And with this huge increase, I think we're going to see even bigger increases over the course of the rest of the year. And even though I have just said all of this, and every other automaker already knows this and knows why Toyota is so successful, they're not going to implement any of this. They're going to keep doing the status quo because that's what automakers do. But if you're wondering why so many people buy Toyotas, it's not just the reliability. It's also down to, again, the price stability on the used market because of the incremental price increases on the new market. And then also, again, more recently, Toyota getting a lot of their dealers in line so that the pricing is more transparent on a dealership level. I'll see you.